Welcome back. Okay, no doubt you've seen the story emerging about the working conditions at Elden Ring developer FromSoft, right? This exploded across Twitter, did actually garner a few headlines. However, and this is not to say that all is perfect at the studio. What we do need to do is actually look deeper at the story, see what's really going on, and perhaps see if there's some form of truth that is being missed out on, right? If this is not entirely the story, if there's more to know. And I think there really is. So basically, this tweet it exploded, right? And the source is careerconnection.jp, which is basically a Japanese version of Glassdoor. And if you look at these aggregate stats, they are bad. I mean, job hours satisfaction, 1.8 out of 5. Job difficulty, 4.2 out of 5. But is it that? Stress-free rating, 2.6 out of 5. Annual leave satisfaction, 3 out of 5. Pay satisfaction, 1.9 out of 5. Overall, 2.2 out of 5. With a 3.41 million yen a year, which is about 29,000 USD. And I mean, certainly, if you have watched enough videos about trying to be a tourist in Japan, or maybe working out how much is a KFC in Japan, you'll know that that's not a lot of money for how much it can cost to live.
Yep, because they're, it's like, obviously Tokyo is obviously big, has loads of different wards, but they're based in Shibuya, which is one of the more expensive wards. And I think one of the recent stats for annual wage was about 8 million yen.
Yeah.
So.
Essentially, like one of the comparisons being made was like, examples of the average wage for janitorial work.
Yes.
And that being higher than, certain aspects here of game development. Now, that's a pretty serious allegation. You look at this and it's pretty damn bad at first glance. I think we can all agree.
Indeed.
The Gamer posted an article then. FromSoftware employees report poor pay and working conditions, right? So the Gamer hop onto this. And now we've got to sort of pick things apart and work out what's actually going on. So, Matt, what problems are at pay? What's going on here?
Yeah, so these complaints are largely from 2011, 2012. That's where most of this comes from. But obviously, you went through the actual numbers there, or like the aggregate stats. There are also conditions, which is like the female employees not being given any leeway for childbirth or childcare, instead being like, you know what they do, because you can't fire someone because that's protected by law, but you can kind of just like, there's no place for you here now that you're going to have to, you're going to have all these problems, so please kindly get out, which is one of the things. Another, or I think it might have been the same employer or another one, I can't remember, but they allege that the low pay is causing a substantial amount of turnover among people who especially join mid-project, don't feel super attached to it, and they're just like, well, I'm here working like crazy to get this pay, which is nothing. And then again, it's like that pay is genuinely abysmal for Shibuya wages.
Absolutely.
So it's the case of, there's nothing maybe super major going on here, but according to this source specifically, things are generally not good, which you look at FromSoft being now, effectively a household name as far as games are concerned in the like core gamer market, because the Soul series is so like beloved and selling millions and millions and millions. Elden Ring now I think it's, the biggest new IP since Red Dead Redemption 2. I think.
So, looking at this initial tweet, we don't exactly have it being very clear when these complaints are from or what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, they're actually mostly from 2011 to 2012. Of course, when does Dark Souls come out? 22nd of September 2011.
Yep.
Right? So, these are complaints that were made post Demon Souls and during the development of Dark Souls. So that's just important so that you can place these within the right context and understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, there are perhaps some counterpoints, some things that are, actually material to this story that perhaps are being reported on uncritically, that are not being, properly dove into.
Yeah.
And one of them is job difficulty, because that's actually a mistranslation.
Yep.
Yeah. So a few replies are pointing out that it actually means job worth doing.
Yep.
Now,
should go to a new yard guy.
Yep.
Job worth doing.
So it basically is not what people initially thought. Yeah. Now, so a high score there, it's like, is this worth doing? Is this a satisfying, are these hard problems to solve that are satisfying to solve? That's more what it's going for.
Yeah, very much. Is this work meaningful? Basically job satisfaction, ultimately. And it seems that, it doesn't excuse the other factors.
Absolutely not.
But employees are dissatisfied with other things, but they're like, you know what? This is really satisfying work. And I think a lot of people are, I mean, isn't that the story of game development in general? Where it's like, this is really satisfying and work I'm passionate about. I'll accept lower conditions for doing that. There is a point where that can become exploitive and abusive. And I guess that's one of the things we have to look out for here. But as to whether that's the case or not, hard to say.
As we move on then, the average overtime being 40 hours a month.
Yep.
Maybe people who glanced this, who saw, they saw the retweet. They're like, oh, wow, I'm glad I know that. And they hit the like button on the retweeted tweet.
Or retweet.
Or something like that. Yeah. Probably saw that. Maybe don't know that that's actually from a single person.
Yep.
And that means that, it doesn't show a trend. It's just a single number for a single person. Now, I'm perfectly willing to believe, all things considered, that there's plenty of overtime going on here.
Almost.
So I do personally believe that. But these are serious allegations and a serious story. So what this means is, there's a bit of smoke there. I should go and check if there's a fire. Yeah. I should do a journalism. I should try to reach out to some staff, work out what's going on. So whenever this stuff just gets shared uncritically, including by outlets like The Gamer, then...
Yeah, that's ultimately the problem, and that's maybe why a lot of other outlets haven't picked up on this, even though it would make an incredible story, is because at least most of them are looking going, okay, this is a bit of smoke, but it's old. We'll have to look into it properly, as opposed to letting it go completely running around rampant on Twitter with 7,000 retweets, I think.
Well, multiple of my friends brought up that tweet to me, being like, "Whoa, did you hear this?"
Yeah.
So clearly, this is something that's spreading around. Now, maternity leave. That is something that is protected by Japanese law. There's also, so it's 6 weeks prenatal, 8 weeks postnatal. They are protected against unfair treatment by employers.
Yeah. Now, of course, that doesn't mean they can't find a way around that a little bit, but it is, if you're treated unfairly, you can take them up on it.
Yeah. Now, these are mostly from 2011 to 2012, these reviews. And also, maybe another thing that is not being widely talked about is that this is from 13 total reviews. Yeah,
there's 21 reports in total. 13 are like the qualitative reviews where they've talked about it, and then 7 of them are talking about annual salary. So that's, when you consider the likes of Glassdoor and Career Connection are going to naturally have biases towards negatives, because if you're happy at work, you're not going to go on a site to say, oh, I love these people. You're likely to just continue working happy enough. So there's a little bit of negativity bias lean towards there, but also it's coming from such a small number of reviews.
Yeah, like at least with the Team 17 story, that was a total of 71.
Yeah,
which is, certainly a better sample size to be working with.
Mm-hmm.
But we do need to bring in some historical context here. So Dark Souls, that's late 2011. It sold 1.5 million units by November. Yep. Now, before that, they had made loads of games. Like, really loads of games. Seriously, so many games. Yep. But most of them were just mixed reception and okay sales. Right? Between 2011 and the year 2000, they released 42 games and 2 re-releases.
42.
Now, from 2011 to 2022, they released 10. Since 2015, they've only released 4. Their games are getting bigger. They are getting better.
Yep.
Right? The Soul series has evidently changed things up for the company.
Yep, they've been able to grow, and seemingly they've been able to take a lot more time to work on games, because obviously Elden Ring happened, Dark Souls 2, 3, Bloodborne, they were relatively fast turnaround, but they weren't, we've made 20 games this year, by the way, which is what genuinely happened in the early days.
Yeah, and then of course the big change, so Hidetaka Miyazaki then becomes president in 2014.
Yep, which is, and then obviously, of course, Kadokawa Corp bought them from their old owner as well, 2014. I think this was a couple months after he became president. They bought 80% of their shares in April, and then finished the complete, bought them entirely and turned them into a subsidiary in May. And that's to say that this stuff is being reported as, because I think it was The Gamer specifically said it was something about, let me look at exactly, it was, some of the messages date over a decade ago, suggesting that conditions at the company have remained substantially the same over the years. But this is where I would posit, it's got a new president, it's got a new owner, and an owner that, because they used to be primarily owned by Transcosmos, which is a Japanese IT firm, which seemed more like an ownership of convenience as opposed to, we're going to really look after you and try to push you forward. Whereas Kadokawa bought them, I think it was 5 years after Kadokawa, who were a big a media conglomerate focused on manga and anime stuff. They bought them, went, right, we're making this big push into games. and they worked on a couple RPGs before this. So it's very much now, it's a very big change in leadership.
Yeah, so we would basically say that what the gamer is sort of claiming there is, it literally means nothing.
Yeah.
Because you could say that this suggests nothing has changed. You could also say that this suggests that things have changed. And both are almost equally meaningless statements.
Yes.
I mean, you would think that being owned by a manga and media publisher would be better, but certainly the working conditions in anime production and manga production are less than okay.
That's for sure.
But here's our point. The journalism needs to be done to come to an answer properly.
Yep.
Now, it's time for the 2019 update because there are a few posts from 2019, so we thought we would take a look. Now, the thing is that these are all machine translated, so obviously taken to the grain of salt. I think we're definitely finding that with, I don't know if it's specifically with Japanese, but with Japanese, sometimes the translations cannot be great. Change the meaning. I guess it's a highly context-dependent language, isn't it?
Yeah, so. a lot of machine translation for Japanese stuff. If you have like a full paragraph, it sort of turns out roughly okay because there's so much context that they need to do. But cases where like the job difficulty, where it's literally like the machine just reads, especially when it comes to using kana only as opposed to a kanji, which has more context in it. If you don't understand the context, like a Google Translate sort of won't, then there's more chance of getting something wrong. Like the idea of them, the job difficulty as opposed to satisfaction. You're like, how do you get that wrong? Like, it's complicated machine translation stuff. But
it's very much not like a language like English.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of a problem when it comes to this like kind of reporting where, especially obviously in the West, you've got, it's really easy to have contacts in the West because, same language, but that gets a lot more difficult when it comes to crossing the actual line over to a completely different language barrier. We'll maybe have the same issues arise when sort of more Chinese development takes forefront with like Black Myth Wukong and stuff like that, or even maybe with development in India from Ubisoft starting to pump up, we might have some language problems. I think Frontline Gaming Japan are doing a good job of catching a lot of this stuff. They even caught a lot of problems with Elden Ring's translation, which is very bad, actually. But anyway, yeah.
So here there's one woman who said, "It seems there was sexual harassment in the past, but now I don't see it at all." And she claims this is because male employees are careful around the extremely few women. Yeah, I mean, if anyone's ever been in a computer science class that was an absolute sausage fest.
Oh, they're vile.
It can be a bit fucking rumbly to say the very least. It must be extremely uncomfortable to be in the other side of that.
I can imagine.
Now, she says that career advancement is actually easier for people with higher communication skills. Yep. And women who can speak without hesitation can advance. But she's never seen a female manager in a development position.
Yeah, I think she also suggested that might be what the glass ceiling is. That's what the translation turned out as. So it might be a case of there is a literal problem there, but she doesn't really see why, I guess.
Okay. Now, she does go on to praise that it is a rewarding job because employees have got room to challenge themselves and to do new things. Yep. Now, she did say as well that the pay is not very high according to the industry average and that there is some overtime, but that it is at their own discretion. She says this undeniably results in an environment where working overtime is seen as working hard, which
Japanese, like?
Certainly in the broader context of Japanese corporate culture, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole...
Like, for some reason, my internal image... As much as that UX designer, I believe, who worked in Horizon said that, everyone is just smoking over a CRT. Yeah. For some reason in my head, the perception is that they are doing that till 8 p.m. and then getting drunk. Because I guess that's the salaryman almost stereotype, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a salaryman stereotype. And then, there's... Obviously, you can't really use this as a source, but there is the manga and anime new game, which is, there was I can't remember the author's name, but worked for years and years in game dev I think he was a producer or something. And then he retired and started making this manga. And it's excellent. It's a really great slice of life, but it is just regularly this art director just sleeps under the desk all the time. And they try to make kind of light of it and make it kind of funny, but it's just this is actually really pretty grotesque if you think about it, literally speaking.
Yeah. So I think overall, first of all, remember, this is just one person's account. Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Take everything with a grain of salt. I think the main reason we're doing this video is to say, hey, everyone, this has been shared.
Yep.
Maybe it reflects now. Maybe it doesn't. We don't know. We do know that the data is not great, that the machine translation did kind of mess up something in a way that's pretty key. that we think it's being reported on a little bit uncritically. And I think overall, this is all a sign that maybe this is something that is worth looking into.
Yes.
I would say that it's going to be quite hard to do that because I think you could look at almost any big Japanese company and find, I mean, you can do the same with any big American company. But, like a lot of those like working culture stereotypes and things like that, like, how broadly do they exist? So I think any reporting would need to be taken within the context of like overall work culture and what other development studios are like in the region.
Yeah, I mean,
the point is, someone's got to go in and instead of just spinning up a quick article based on a tweet, someone's got to go and actually do the journalism to find out what is really going on.
Yeah, I mean, an example is I think the overall satisfaction here is 2.2 out of 5, based on mostly 2011, 2012. I believe I haven't looked into them too closely, but I think like the surface level ratings for Capcom and Konami are both around 3.0. And I saw people make go, well, Konami's 3.0, Konami's better than FromSoft. You're like, that's the thing where that's interesting as a tweet, but it's not exactly indicative of reality. And I think it's a case where, as fun as it is to sort of run with the story and stuff, I think it does require a little bit more looking in to be taken seriously. I mean, that's why the likes of Bloomberg doing such great work, and well, I guess Schreier in general doing most of that before even VGC looking into like deeply into how things actually happen at companies is also very important. I mean, most of this is like, this tweet was, no harm to them, but it was, here's the thing. Well, I've seen someone called concern engagement trolling, but it's that idea of, I think it's important that people pay attention to this stuff, but it's like, if I can sit for half an hour and find a bunch of reasons why this may not be true, and then, basically neither of what the tweet's saying or what I'm saying are true, literally true. It's like just single data points.
Exactly. The point is that someone needs to go and do the hard work.
Yeah.
So that this can be a story that can be reported on fairly.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's essentially the situation. So make of that what you will. There is no firm outcome from today's video. That's literally the point. Maybe the firm outcome is, think whenever you see a highly, spreading out the place tweet or whatever, or just anything that is being, its spread is clearly viral based on a quick emotional response, just have a second, think about it. I think that's mostly it. And perhaps the good thing that we'll get out of this is that somebody will do a proper investigation.
Hopefully.
So that's essentially that. Let us know what you think. I mean, do you think that this pretty much does represent now or not? I mean, I would be surprised if the annual wages were still awful considering the financial success of the company. Yeah, that would be insane and extremely disappointing if it's true.
They've been substantially more successful financially. Every game they've released outside of Deracine, which is the VR thing, I don't think that sold very well, but everything has been a hit. They've had, Game of the Year. Well, I think they haven't literally won Game of the Year, but, they may as well have because it's not with Sekiro. They will with Elden Ring unless Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. They probably should have with Dark Souls, honestly. Was it Miyazaki recently won Lifetime Achievement in games? So you think, and also they've grown loads. They've got loads of deals with Sony, with Bandai Namco. Bandai Namco recently reported that they've went and raised a bunch of salaries across like their Japanese divisions. And obviously that wouldn't apply to FromSoft because that's their publisher, whereas FromSoft are Kadokawa's subsidiary. But I would imagine that they're paid at least reasonably well because otherwise you don't get talent. That's more or less it.
I hope so. We'll just have to wait and see. So that's it for today's video. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time.